Hi, I'm Shoestring Jane. Welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things thrifty, frugal and money saving. This is just an intro to a video I made when I was out on my dog walk earlier. So I hope you can hear it, and all I can say is please put your subtitles on if you can't hear it. Here we go. Just some thoughts on Christmas. Thought I'd do a little walk and talk this morning. It's really windy, so I'm not sure if it's going to quite work because, as ever, I don't have a microphone. I did smash my phone up though, so this is a new phone. I had to get a new one. I was out of contract for quite a long time and only paying a tiny bit really each month for my usage. But so I've had to go into another contract in order to buy the iPhone interest free. And I didn't get the latest one because that's madness. I did consider a second-hand one, but my last one was a second-hand one actually, and it was fine. My laptop was a second-hand one. But I couldn't find a second-hand one that was really much cheaper than the new one, the new deal I got with Tesco actually. So I thought, well, I'll just go for a new one because I need to use it for lots of things. I use it for work a lot, for doing my eBay, I use it for YouTube. And I do actually need a decent phone. I don't have a camera, so I know some people have like special vlogging cameras. I don't. This is it. So it's multi-use. So I'm quite pleased with it anyway. It was quite a good deal, I think, for lots of data and lots of storage as well. So I was thinking it is today, I think it's the 4th of October. I lose track. Now that I don't have to go to work for anyone else. I lose track of what the date is. There's always lots of dog walkers here, so I might stop when I'm walking next to the tip, hence the noisiness of it. But I was thinking it's October. Usually at this point I've bought quite a lot of Christmas presents and I'm quite ahead of the game. I like to get ahead of the game. Just see where that boy is. He's there. And I don't like that last minute Christmas stress really, that last minute Christmas rush. So but this year, because I've been just packing and getting this house sorted, I thought, well, I'm going to have to do it later. It's not like I've done a couple of bits actually as I've gone along, but it's not like I haven't put money aside for Christmas, so I am budgeted for it, so it's not going to be a horrible shock financially. I've done Christmas vlogs and blogs on Shoestring Cottage as well, a lot really, about how to save money at Christmas. But I think this year people are going to be feeling the pinch particularly, and I think worrying about it, particularly if you've got like a family and lots of children and you feel like you have to produce a good Christmas and you really are worrying about the cost of it. And I would say it's just one day, and it really is not worth getting in debt for. I mean, just don't do it. It's a New Year hangover you can do without. So there's still time to do things a different way. I was trying to get out of the wind a bit, it's got really windy. So I remember when my children were quite small, when we were really skint, and that kind of sinking feeling of just worrying about it and how we're going to do it. And we were never extravagant in the slightest, but there were our 3 children and all of my family and my nieces and nephews, and at that point we all bought for everybody. Now I'm one of 4 siblings. And we all bought presents for everybody, their partners and their children. And it was not only did it take forever to actually find the things you wanted to buy and wrap them, it cost so much money. And I just thought, I can't do this, it's just making me anxious. I remember really feeling in the pit of my stomach anxious. We did it for a few years though. We did actually, thinking, well, this is just the way it is, this is what you have to do. And then one day I just thought, no, I'm not doing this anymore. So I said to the family, can we do something different? Can we maybe just buy little token gifts for each other? Maybe something just small, £5. We could still buy the kids presents, but little token gifts for each other. And nobody was enthusiastic about that. And another year went on and still had that kind of worry and gnawing anxiety in the pit of my stomach about Christmas. And then I said, okay, I'm not going to buy for adults anymore, let's do Secret Santa. By then, I think one of my sisters also had a big mortgage and was kind of feeling the pinch of it as well, so I had an ally. So we decided we would do Secret Santa for anybody in full-time work over the age of 18.
if they were still at university, they could stay as a child, or if they're still in education. And everybody else would go in a secret Santa. So we'd only have one present to buy for the adults. And my mum and dad didn't want to do that. They didn't want to join in at all. So we said, okay, well, you can be the exception. So if you want to carry on buying for everybody, you can. This year, for the first time, my mum said, I think we might have to do Secret Santa, because she's obviously worried about heating bills. They have their heating on all the time. And they, they're only on a pension and a little bit of extra help from the government. They're not on a great deal of money. So finally, I think she's starting to think, I need to rein it in a bit at the age of 87. So anyway, that's what we did. And it was, gosh, it's such a relief. I think everybody found it a relief, not just financially, but as I said before, it just takes so much time. I remember standing at the ironing board, because that was the best place to wrap the presents. It felt like hours just doing all these presents, wrapping them up in all this flipping paper that just went straight in the recycling, if you were lucky, in the bin if you weren't, and writing hundreds of Christmas cards to people I never saw, and loads of people at work just writing Christmas cards for everybody in the office, and we had a big office, and then joining in with work Secret Santas as well, and going on lots of meals with work, and first of all carried on doing those, but just did Secret Santa, cut right back on my card sending and started just sending the odd email to people, or realising I could just put a little message on Facebook to people. It's just pointless when for years and years and years, unless you really write something, a letter to somebody in there, just send me a Christmas card. Okay, it says you're alive, and that's it. There are other ways of doing that. So over the years, I've gradually cut right back on that too. I stopped using Christmas wrapping paper unless it's part of the stash we already had. And God, we had a lot, because I stopped that about 3 or 4 years ago. I'm still finding it. Found a load in the attic when I cleared it out. So I've got wrapping paper for this year. But I've been using like old scarves and pieces of fabric, and I've now found an old sewing machine of my daughter's in the attic, so I'm going to get that repaired, and next year I'll be able to make some gift bags, I think. But yeah, that's just what my point is. I'm rambling around the houses and literally going around the houses. That's the dog. My point is that, you can do things differently. But if you do have lots of children, or any children, and they are kind of demanding the latest of this and the latest of that, I mean, the way I tended to approach it, because we didn't really just spend ridiculous amounts on the children when they were younger, was, they got one main present, and if that main present was too expensive, then they shared it. So if they wanted a games console, they'd have it between them, because how many games consoles do you need in your house, after all? And in games the same as well. They could buy things like that between them, and they'd share, and then we'd get them some clothing or some pyjamas or something, some books, even a few second-hand things. Often bought them second-hand, bikes and that kind of thing. And if it was an unrealistic thing that they were asking for, we'd tell them it was an unrealistic thing. They never thought Father Christmas bought them those presents. I used to do a couple of, when they still believed in Father Christmas, I used to do a couple of just little small things which were marked from Santa, and everything else came from us or their relatives, and they knew who they had to thank. It wasn't from Santa. And then, of course, that Santa things, once the oldest ones twig, then they all know, don't they? I'm not quite sure about that anyway. It's a Santa thing. And then we didn't go to lots of events at Christmas. We used to go to the local carol service. We're not Christians, actually, but it was just a lovely service. It felt quite peaceful. We used to see lots of people we knew in the community, sing a few Christmas hymns, and then the girls would get a sleepy biscuit on the way out, which they really believed helped them sleep. And that was early evening on Christmas Eve, and that was lovely, and they used to go home and be happy with that. We'd put some carrots and a mince pie out for Father Christmas and the reindeer when they were little. And I would, as the internet came into force, I would just avoid the shops. It's so much easier with children. Going to a toy shop with children, they decide they need everything, don't they, that's in there. So I stopped doing that, because if they don't see it, they don't demand it. They still see it on the TV ads, of course. But I just think, I didn't want to encourage them to be really materialistic, and I didn't want them to think that they can literally have everything they wanted. Because if you have everything you wanted, there's never anything to kind of save up for or look forward to, and you don't appreciate it because it all comes too easy. It's a bit of an old-fashioned way to look at it, I think. But when we were kids, it was the 70s, and my parents had no spare cash at all. They were really down on their uppers. They really struggled with everything. My mum was telling me recently about it. I hadn't realised. I knew, but I hadn't realised quite how bad it was. But everyone in the 70s was struggling, and we just didn't expect a lot. We didn't expect a lot, and we got what we got. We really appreciated. So it'd be a small thing, but it might be something we'd seen on telly. Like I remember me and my sister getting a Tiny Tears doll, cried real tears, loved it. Didn't get loads of other stuff. I think we even got used to get the orange in our stockings, you know. And you know, that's the thing. If you're overindulging your children, or you're trying to keep up with all their friends who are overindulging their children, just have a step back. You know, have a step back. It's so bad for the environment, as if nothing else. A little think: do your children really need all this stuff? Is it going to end up down at the charity shop or in the bin, or you know, the sun behind me. It was looking very grey this morning. Couldn't decide what it was going to do. Now it's decided to be sunny.
The wind was so bad we had to come back to the car to talk. I'm really windswept. I say it was bad, it was quite invigorating and refreshing. It's a lovely autumn morning, but I think it's going to really rain. The clouds are coming in. We've got some splashes of sunshine, but Archie doesn't care, do you? I just prefer it when he's not all soggy wet. So I was talking about Christmas, and thinking about food is the other big area where it's so easy to think you have to buy endless food, and you know that kind of New Year thing when you've just got mince pies everywhere and cake and sweets and snacks and drinks, and you're trying to start a New Year's diet or something, or just trying to eat more healthily, and then you feel guilty because you've got all these things and you don't know what to do with them. You feel like you shouldn't throw them away, so you'd better eat them, and then you feel bad for eating them. We've all been there. So the cure to that, it's just slightly on the skew, the cure to that is just not to buy too much in the first place. I mean, you know that I like meal planning, and I find it saves me quite a lot of money, and I do a lot of scratch cooking, which also saves quite a lot of money. So really Christmas shouldn't be any different. Just plan for what you're going to eat. Obviously get a few nice things on top because it's a festival, so we're allowed to drink more and eat more maybe than usual, but just think about what you realistically are going to want, and just how good you will feel when you get to New Year and you've used all your Christmas stuff, so you can buy a few things maybe for New Year's Eve and into the coming year. So just don't go crazy, that's what I mean. And don't buy things just because they're Christmas things that nobody in your household eats. For a long time I bought Christmas cake, or I made Christmas cake, and really, I mean, I quite like it. I'll eat it, and I know it does last a long time, but Justin likes it and nobody else will eat it. So if I get it at all, I'll get just a really small Christmas cake from Aldi or somewhere. They do quite good ones that aren't too expensive. I certainly won't go to the time and trouble of making the cake, because I won't make that kind of cake. I could make a different sort of cake that we'll all eat, maybe. So do things that, buy things that are non-traditional if you want to. If your family will enjoy them and it's a special meal, there's no reason why you have to have turkey and all the trimmings and Christmas pudding. We like that actually, but not everybody does. So it could be a special meal. It doesn't have to be a Christmas meal. It doesn't have to be an expensive meal. I did see Prime of Midlife recently, and she had seen on offer her turkey, ready-made roast potatoes in duck fat or goose fat and some vegetables all frozen, and she'd bought them and put them in her freezer for Christmas. Well, you know, there's nothing wrong with doing that, particularly if you haven't got to cook for many people. You don't have to do everything from scratch, and if that means that the cook doesn't have to do a lot of cooking, then that's fine. I do like to do my own roast potatoes, though. I don't ever think they're as good otherwise. But, you know, just doing things differently. And if you're, for example, say you've got into a tradition of you're the person that hosts a Christmas Eve party, or you're the person who everybody comes to for Boxing Day always, or you always do the Christmas dinner for your extended family, then, you know, if that's going to be a lot of money for you and you can't afford it, then suggest something different. You could suggest somebody else hosts it. So you just say, oh, I'm a bit too busy to host it this year. Or you could suggest everybody brings a contribution. So get people to bring, if you do a party, get them all to bring a party dish, something for the buffet, get them all to bring a bottle, and then you can just provide soft drinks, something like that, whatever you want, however you want to do it. That's another way of doing it. Or, as I say, suggest somebody else hosts it. If you do the Christmas dinner and your extended family are coming, say, well, I will do the mains, can you provide the starter, can you provide something for the Christmas Eve meal or the Christmas tea, can you provide the dessert, you know, whatever. Just spread it. Why does everybody have to do it? And we tend to do that. My elder sister did family occasions for years because she had a really big house, so we're quite a big family. So, and she liked cooking, she liked catering, she was good at it. But you know, she's not in that house now, so her circumstances have changed, and we can't all just pile around to her every time now. So we're having to spread it around. At the time, she seemed to quite like it, but maybe sometimes she got fed up with it. And then, having done it myself a few times, I realised that it's really quite expensive when you're doing Christmas dinner for a lot of people, or even a buffet, you know, for a lot of people. It ends up being quite a lot of money. So think of different ways to do it. And when people turn up, I remember one of my daughter's boyfriend's mums turning up with a present, and we just weren't prepared for it, and it was embarrassing. And I just thought, why have you bought us a present, because we barely know you? But I just happened to have something that I could reciprocate with. But now I think I would just say, oh, that's really kind of you, but I really wasn't expecting a present, and we don't normally do presents for anybody outside the family. That's really kind of you. And just leave it at that and not encourage it, because otherwise you get into a situation where every year somebody buys you a present who you're not expecting, and then you have to reciprocate, and it can become more than one person. I had somebody at work who did it. She used to buy presents for about 10 people in the office, and then you felt you had to buy her a present, and then it was just kind of awkward. And I remember saying to her, please don't buy me a present, because, you know, I'm not buying a lot myself. I'm trying to stick to a budget. And she carried on buying it. She just wanted to. So I thought, well, I've told you I'm not buying it. I'm not reciprocating. If you choose to continue to do that, I can't really stop you, and I don't want to be ungracious about it. But, and you know, the kids' teachers, I know that because my sister works in a school, she gets a lot of presents from very generous parents, but they all tend to be along the same lines. And she has a lot of mugs and a lot of chocolates and a lot of bottles of things, and some things that are a bit odd because they're kind of difficult to choose for other people, like jewellery and that kind of thing. I mean, she works at a nice school. Do you really think they need something? Could you get your kids to make them a nice picture or something? You know, do something a bit different that's just homemade, or bake them a cake or something if you really, really think that you have to. Or just say to the kids, you know, Mrs. So-and-so, she gets so many things, she probably doesn't want anything from us, let's just make her a nice card, or some crafts or something. You know, it's difficult. You get drawn in, don't you? And the expectation is there that you have to do things a certain way and behave a certain way. You know, you have to go to Christmas events, and sometimes they cost a lot of money. You have to go to the panto. Well, the panto is brilliant, I have to say. I love the pantomime. We used to try to do that most years, but it was quite expensive. I mean, our local theatre is not as expensive as going to the West End, but if you find an amateur production, the kids still love it. Oh no, they don't. Oh yes, they do. So you could go to an amateur production, cost you just I don't know, fiver or something like that. So maybe that's a different way to do things. So that's really my key message here, rambling on. With Christmas, or whatever festivals that you celebrate, because not everybody does Christmas, of course, not everybody has that kind of Christian background. Do it, think of different ways to do it. Some people I know just say, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing Christmas at all. I'm just not doing it. It's too expensive. I don't want to do it. And I think, good for you, good on you. I think my girls really like Christmas, and if I did that, they'd be really disappointed with me. But they can cope. I've said this year, I don't want you spending a lot of money on me. I don't want you to spend. I don't mind if you buy some second hand. I say this most years to them. Just don't buy lots of stuff that I don't need. I don't want you making yourself broke buying Christmas presents. I think we should stick to a budget, a low budget. And I know I'm not going to buy ridiculous amounts for them either this year. So, well, I don't anyway. I tend not to. But I do tend to be most generous with Justin and my daughters. And that's my biggest Christmas expense. But, this year times are lean. I don't want to particularly do that. I'm going to lower it, and I've told them they're not to spend too much either, and I'm really happy for them to buy me something secondhand. I encourage it. I'm really glad to have that, and I'll buy secondhand presents myself. I don't have any problem with it. So anyway, that ramble over. I'm going to go home, get a cup of coffee, some porridge, and write an article, or maybe finish this video. We'll see. So I'm back now. The sun is really streaming through the window. My office looks even more messy than usual because it's full of boxes and packing materials. Boxes. I got lots of boxes free from my local frugal group recently for our hopeful house move. I mean, I'm not going to go into it too much, but it's just really very annoying at the moment. Things are very dodgy, so we'll see whether we move. Hopefully we will. But anyway, yes, I'm back now. I've had our coffee. I've been doing a bit of work and just wanted to close this video down, really. So just giving you food for thought about Christmas and whether there's a different way to do it. Hope you could manage to hear through the wind, and if not, as I said at the beginning, maybe you could turn on your subtitles. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, do give me the thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy this sort of content. I will do similar things as we approach Christmas, maybe some different ways of doing your gift giving. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Bye for now.